Okay, it's a little after 6 p.m., November 15th, and this is a meeting of the Wolfeboro Budget Committee. Tonight we're going to be dealing with the fire and emergency management, which includes the ambulance services, fire and rescue, emergency management, public safety building, and capital outlay. Bob, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bob. Casey, do you have anything for us before we start?
No, but at the end.
Okay. How are you tonight, Chief?
Good, thank you.
What can you tell us about your department? How has the year been?
Busy. As of, I think last week is the last time I ran the numbers, we were 124 calls ahead of the same time period last year. But we're hanging in there. Some of you may be aware, I know some of you are, our truck committee is in Wisconsin as we speak, wrapping up the factory inspection of the ladder. We're told that everything looks good. There's some very minor punch list items to be adjusted, and they'll be flying back tomorrow. We don't have a time frame yet other than what the contract says, but we would expect it would be delivered to Fleet Masters in Massachusetts 2 to 3 weeks, and then 2 or 3 weeks there, and then shortly thereafter it would come rolling into town. We'll do our final walkthrough, if you will, and at the point where it's physically here and we sign on the dotted line to accept it, at that point we own it. So we're starting to get excited about it because we're starting to see pictures and things. And
Oh, good.
we've come up with an in-house training program, so once it's delivered, we can get it on the road and get everybody trained up on operations and so forth. And you'll probably see it quite a bit first quarter of the year.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Tom.
I was just curious how it all worked out with expense and the fact they wanted to try to backpedal on their commitment.
If you recall, in the first week of July, we received a visit from Seagraves, at which point they asked the town for an additional 15% surcharge above and beyond the contract. That was $226,000 and change. As you might imagine, we were caught quite by surprise. We discussed it internally and requested that they make that request formally in front of the Board of Selectmen, which they did 2 or so weeks later. The decision was made on the town's end, and I don't think I'm telling tales out of school because it's public as far as I know, through legal counsel to advise them to please follow the contract, and that's that. They stopped communicating with us for a period of time. We made some inquiries, didn't get a response. Fast forward into early September. I was at a training in Concord, sitting next to the deputy chief of another department in New Hampshire whose department has been buying Seagrave apparatus, and he happened to make a comment that they were about to go do the factory inspection on an engine. Didn't think too much about it. We get through the class, and the following Monday I said, gee, we haven't heard anything. Maybe they'll take a picture for me and send it, and we'll kind of get an idea what's going on. So I emailed him, and he said, no, it was last week while we were in class. Do you want me to ask if the guys saw your truck? Sure. About an hour later, I get a response. Yeah, they saw your truck. It looked like it was done. It was in the corner of the assembly building. Okay. So I forwarded that to the town manager and legal counsel. That prompted another attempt at conversation, which was productive, and long story short, there was some back and forth, and we looked at other options. Essentially what we were looking at for options was one, ask for a full refund, which they were prepared to do if we went that route. The problem from our perspective was multifold. One, and I'm gonna use round figures, that would result in a check back to the town of approximately $1.5 million. For us to start with a new spec with another manufacturer for a similar vehicle, we're looking at a minimum of a 2-year build time. So that's 2 more years without. We're probably looking at over $2 million for the same piece of apparatus. So we're still short. Regardless, we're going back to the town and asking for money. We looked at the possibility of buying a used aerial to get us over the hump. We did identify one with a community that was willing to work with us. They were willing to kind of wait out how this played out. The problem there is that would be another anywhere from $50,000 to somewhere maybe $100,000 out of capital reserve with no real return. It's 22-year-old vehicle. It's on paper not worth a lot, and we're spending money, number one, to buy it, number two, to keep it on the road while we're waiting for another apparatus. We looked at what some manufacturers would call a fast-track vehicle. We might call it a stock truck on an assembly line. They build them on spec, if you will, knowing at some point somebody's gonna be looking to purchase it. That was a possibility. We had a similar vehicle that could have been delivered in January. We were still about $250,000 short of the asking price. And it didn't really check all the boxes. We designed this truck. It meets our needs as a community going forward for hopefully 25 to 30 years. Buying a stock vehicle probably gets us 85% of the way there. Toss up.
Yeah, for 250.
So in conversations with the contracted manufacturer, we, through a little back and forth with legal and everything, made a counter offer, which they essentially adjusted a little bit and accepted. We settled on a 10% surcharge of a slightly reduced figure, what we actually paid for the truck, and a additional 1-year warranty. And they agreed to deliver it within 60 days, which at the time puts us right around the first of the year. So that cost the town an additional $146,000, which nobody's happy about. But it gets us the vehicle that we spec'd. It gets it here in a reasonable amount of time. We don't go another winter without an aerial device and relying on our neighbors.
Good outcome.
And, well, probably the best outcome of a bunch of alternatives that nobody was thrilled about. But at the end of the day, that's payable on delivery when we accept it. At the end of the day, again, it gets us the vehicle our truck committee spec'd out and meets our needs for the foreseeable future. It's a reasonable delivery time. And to be honest, from my perspective, stepping back a little bit, because of the time frame we're in with our capital reserve, we don't have any real major purchases coming up for a couple of years. It really doesn't blow us up going forward for that $146,000 that we kind of was unaccounted for.
Thank you.
So right now, again, we're hoping to have it in town probably mid to end of December, and we'll work through the last few things and
Have to put Santa on it.
yeah. Again, we're working internally on an internal driver training program, because although the physical vehicle is approximately as big as the previous one, the major difference you'll see, if you've seen some of the pictures, is it's a bucket rather than a straight ladder. So there's an additional 6 feet of truck in front of you, above your head as you're driving. It's a slightly different animal. It's going to take some getting used to, plus the operation's a little different. So once it's delivered and accepted, I would expect you'll probably see it around town quite a bit as different
Chauffeur
groups.
practice, yeah.
We get it, we get it out on the road and get comfortable with it.
Thank you.
We're trying to balance enough training to get everybody comfortable versus we want to get it in service as reasonably fast as possible. We don't want it sitting in the garage but I'd be happy to answer any questions I can, but a lot of that went through legal and we're not necessarily privy to all of it,
Thank you very much.
Okay, very good, Chief, thank you. Let's move on to ambulance services.
Page 3.
Okay, so this is all by agreement or contract, right?
It's at the maximum. The agreement says the highest of the New England CPI or 3%, so it is budgeted at 3%.
You know how long that contract's good for?
It's a 2-year contract and I believe we're at the end of year 1.
Okay.
And we do have the
Okay,
option to renew going forward.
Okay, great. Any other questions about ambulance services? Okay, let's move into fire and rescue.
Page 5.
The 100 series. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so a couple weeks ago, I sat down with the chief and we went over the budget. And I've spent probably a week and a half thinking about the things we talked about. One of the things he talked about, and obviously he talked about this last year, was staffing. So last year he came to us and we all agreed that we'd add 1 firefighter per year for the next 3 years. Over the course of this year, putting his budget together, he came up with a couple ways to maybe next July add the 2 rather than wait an additional year to add another one. That brings their staffing up. What you got going on right now is some shifts only have 2 firefighters, which means if you pull up to a fire and someone's in there and they gotta go get them, they're dead running the truck. That means nobody's watching the truck, which is absolutely unacceptable. From the NFPA standards, probably from OSHA standards. It's vital that they have that extra firefighter. So he came up with a couple ways to do that. One was in the overtime line. If you look at the overtime line, which is line 140, you can see what he proposed, and then the town manager reduced it because he felt like they should stick with the plan. If you added 22,701 back to that line, it would bring it back and he could use it with shift backfills and achieve the same goal. Or we could put $40,000 or $42,000, I think, the chief's got a better handle on that, into the salaries line and just add the firefighter outright. This wouldn't be until next July. Obviously, July 1st, this would take effect. Again, I think the importance is having the proper staffing, not getting caught in a situation that, firefighting's tough enough as it is. Short-staffed and showing up at something that's could be really bad, leaves somebody in quite a pickle. And if you look around the town, we've added what? Bigger library, bigger hospital, just put in a skating rink, which is bigger. The school's bigger, which means all of your services that you provide get expanded. There's just more calls.
The full-time population of the town's gone up.
And that's correct. And we've really,
On the population,
population.
hardly increases at all.
Well, no, last year, 250. Population went up by, I think it was last year, the year before, it went up by 250, COVID.
Very, very minor. It
I know.
has that,
But I
been
would
that way
also-
for years.
Yeah,
I would also suggest that part-time versus full-time has changed. The numbers may be the same, but part-time, summer, seasonal
Yeah.
versus full-time.
yeah, and I think that's the other side to this, is when you look at that summer tourism and the calls that get increased due to that, anything can happen. And I think that you're not only protecting the community, but in this case, you're protecting the firefighters that you're asking to do a very dangerous job, and I think that's important.
I still have a question here.
Go ahead,
Has
John.
it been this, excuse me, has it been this way for years that we've had some shifts and 2 people? Or is it
Yes.
something new?
No, it's not new.
It's not new.
I can tell you that, we last added staff, well, save the firefighter that thankfully was approved and was hired this year. The last time we added full-time staff was 2003. That moved us to an ability to maintain a minimum of 2 on duty. Before that, we ran with essentially 2 on duty. A lot of times that was covered by overtime and so forth, and obviously we were able to change that when we added the staff back in 2003.
How are you doing with on-call? Part-time?
Actually, we're having a reasonable amount of luck. As you might be aware, nationwide, call and volunteer firefighters are hard to come by.
Yeah.
We have actually added several in the last few years, with varying degrees of experience, ranging from a retired 31-year district chief in Manchester who bought property here and built a home here and is helping us out, to folks who literally, I hate to use the term, off the street with no emergency service background whatsoever. We've been able, through the years, through the wisdom of boards like yourself, as we've been able to maintain our training budget and so forth, send these folks to school to be certified, to become more valuable to us as time goes by, to the point where in recent years, 3 of them have been hired as full-time firefighters in other communities, 2 of whom still maintain residency in Wolfeboro and are still call or part-time firefighters with us.
Thank you.
John,
Yes, sir.
Bob, also, excuse me, the PD, in the PD's preface, they're looking to add 3 officers, 1 a year starting in '24. So if that occurs, then if we don't add 2 firemen in '23, then it'll be, in '24, it'll be 1 fireman and 1 police officer. So really, I don't see a harmful effect in doing the 2, as you say. What line are we talking about here, Rob? 114?
Yes, I believe, yeah, the hourly wages line would
And
increase.
what's the number that
Is
would go up to?
Is it 40 or 42, Chief?
It's in that neighborhood. I do want to caution you, if you want to pursue this, I do feel like I need to say a couple of things. One, I did meet with Mr. Mulholland a few weeks ago, as I've done in the past, to kind of give him a heads up on where we were headed and so forth. I do want to make it clear, because the town manager's not here. He did approach me yesterday to advise he wanted to pursue this. I don't want it to appear that we're trying to get something in through the back door or anything.
Well, can we do this on a revisit then?
But
May I just financially say, on the bottom of page 13, a new hire for half a year, all the way over to the right, is gonna cost the town $56,325.
For a half year?
we ran those numbers as part of putting this budget together. What I would like to do, if you want to pursue this, is give me tomorrow to just make sure we're all on the same page with what the actual dollar figure would be. And I'd be happy, obviously, to share that if the board is interested. That is correct, but we were able, as I recall, and I'd have to go back, I'm doing it from memory, I'd have to go back and look at any other adjustments we had to make, because we do, for example, we have to buy protective clothing and so forth, and you'll get to that line item, and based in part at least on the proposed new hire and frankly the success we've had with bringing on call and part-time people, that line has gone up literally 100%. The gear is now costing almost double what it was 2 and 3 years ago. And frankly, we have, thankfully, a few more people we have to outfit, so. But anyway, not to jump too far forward, but I'd feel more comfortable, number one, looping in the manager, because he is my supervisor, and I don't want to do something that looks like we're going around him. He asked for some numbers, we prepared them, we threw a couple of things on the table, one of which was adding to the overtime line to backfill to that third person for the second half of 2023. And he removed it, not that, and I don't want to speak for him, but not that he necessarily was opposed to it, but he felt, let's stick with the plan we put forward, and understood, and that's where we are.
John,
Yes, sir.
I think it's a good idea for a revisit. I think it's a good idea,
Yep, I agree.
but you don't wanna jump the gun, so.
Well, and again, and if the board is interested in, and the committee's interested in pursuing that, I want to make sure what we provide to you for data is accurate and not just something we threw off the top of our heads either.
John,
Yes, sir.
does it change your overtime line?
It will probably impact it. We gotta kind of do some math and figure out in which direction. There's also, and I'll say this, I don't mean to be cagey, but at the same time, I'm hard pressed right now to give you some absolutes in terms of the specifics, because some of it will involve work schedule that's negotiated with the union. So we have an idea how we would want to move forward, but we're not the only ones who have a say in it.
So the moving pieces are, you have to make sure that the union could let you do more overtime, so that you'd have 3 people on,
No, that one is easy.
that one's easy.
Hiring the additional person and then moving the groups around to, we have a couple of options. Generally speaking, what we could do in one hand is maintain our 3-group system with 4 members on each group and backfill only when we get below 3. So we'd have
Would that
4
put a
on
stress-
some
would that
days,
put a
3
s-
on some days, but a minimum of 3.
Would that put a stress on your employees?
Not necessarily, it'd be maintaining the current schedule, but the
Pretty much the
problem.
standard that it is right now.
Right. The-
So I'd like to see, 5 years, how much, after 5 years, it would cost if you use just an overtime to keep the system going, compared to hiring 3 new employees total with all their benefits. And I think that's a good way to look at it, to see.
I think we can run that based on current numbers, again, as salaries change and so forth. But to be honest, we work, our line firefighters and lieutenants work a 48-hour, what's called a modified Kelly schedule. You've probably heard us refer to Kelly days over the years. One of our goals would be to look at, and again, there's a lot of moving parts, the negotiations and so forth. But one of the options that could be on the table would be to go to 4 groups of 3. That would reduce the work week to a 42-hour work week, which is frankly become standard in the industry. It eliminates the Kelly days, the Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays that we're always trying to backfill, usually on overtime, to maintain that minimum coverage. It's not an issue. But every time somebody puts in a leave day or goes away for training, we've got to cover it.
Yeah, that's why I said.
And we can run those numbers, it's just that, again, there's a lot of moving parts to that. Because right now, the work hours are, and the hourly rate is in the union contract. If we reduce the hours, do we adjust the rate? I can't speak to that at this point.
That's why I
But
said, that's why I
we
said-
can certainly put together a spreadsheet and look at it.
Yeah, that's why I said, we don't wanna stress the employees, you don't want fatigued
I mean,
firefighters going
is-
to.
Exactly. I think our
And
goal,
they should
I
have
don't
a
wanna
life
speak,
balance with their families,
again,
too.
I can't speak for my supervisor, but I think what we would have planned to put forward in 2024, assuming we were successful with the second full-time hire, and then the third would be a proposal to go to 4 groups and go back to a 42-hour week and not have to worry about the whole Kelly setup. It's just a different cycle on the calendar.
Linda?
You know, if you put 2 on this year, it looks like 112,000, just estimating it, but that's only for a half year.
Right.
So when you do the full year, you can double that, and then you're gonna add police. So I'd like you, if you look at it this year, look at the impact for next year, when you look at it.
Right. One of the, I'll say, benefits that we put forward with this 1-a-year plan was to gradually increase the numbers rather than spike it. That said, if the town, the committee, the board wanted to move forward in that direction, we'd certainly make it happen. But like I say, there are a lot of moving parts that I can't necessarily address right now, because again, if we choose to go to a 42-hour work week, there's some negotiating involved in how that is gonna play out. But, I'll let the deputy speak. I think our intent has been to move in that direction, should we be successful moving forward. It's just right now, if we move forward with a July hire, and then the following July, that would be the point where we would look at changing the schedule to accommodate that.
John?
John, I'd like to make a motion that we revisit this subject, the 100 series, later on.
Okay, there may be some other people that have questions.
Beg your pardon?
There may be some other folks that have questions. Right.
Chief, you're at 12 full-time employees right now, firefighters?
Correct, there's 10 line firefighters, and the deputy and myself, and the full-time executive assistant.
Okay. And I believe I asked this last year, I think you would explored the possibility there's no grant money out there to cover new hires or.
We looked at that last year, and the short answer is yes, but. There's what's called an AFG grant. The subsection is, they call it a SAFER grant, staffing something. But we looked at it and frankly elected to go this route, because that grant, for a period of 3 years, pays the salary of the hires. It's base salary, doesn't include holiday pay, doesn't include overtime, doesn't include protective clothing, doesn't include anything else that goes with it. It's base pay. And at the end of the 3 years, you want them lock, stock, and barrel. In the interest of, again, kind of small bites at the apple, if you will, we elected to step back and say, you know what, if we get the same place one at a time, with what we can we can budget for what we need in terms of the auxiliary items, gear, and so forth. And it's transparent, it's right in front of everybody, and we can make an informed decision. My fear, number two, was in an organization our size, onboarding 3 new people, quite frankly, most likely from outside, at the same time is very, very hard. I mean, I can relate it, I'm sure the police go through the same thing. Bringing on a bunch of new hires literally almost on the same day, it's a lot of work. This also gave us the ability to do a couple of things. One, and in the case of our July 2022 hire, it came from a member of the call staff. He was able to ramp up his certification and so forth to make himself eligible, and here he is. Essentially, that's why we elected not to pursue that grant, because again, we would go through with, it'd be very difficult to budget on a maybe, and then we're looking at, the overtime, that kind of thing, and then at the end of the 3 years, you just get all of it at once. So we said, you know what, we can get there in 3 years. If the powers that be come up with a way to fund that a little sooner, we certainly wouldn't object to it, but, that's how we got here. I mean, that's at the end of the day.
Certainly the telling thing for me, last year was the fact that you hadn't added staff since 2003.
Correct.
So, I mean, to me, that was pretty good justification right there. Trying to add 2 people now without some indication there's a sense of urgency. I would want to be convinced more that whether it be through call volume, whether it be through other factors that have occurred since we sat here last year and kind of bought into the 1-a-year program, I would like to see that aired out.
Sure.
If there's a need there to add the 2, if there's a benefit there to adding the 2 now, then let's talk about it. But otherwise, I was happy with the 1-a-year
Mr. Mulholland touched on it, and
Yeah.
I can speak more if we're gonna revisit it, and that sounds like the path we're going down. But operationally, and I don't wanna get in it tonight, I think I'd feel more comfortable doing it on the revisit. There are a lot of good reasons to add staff. It's not just purely numbers. So I mean, there's big picture issues there that be more than happy to talk about.
I have one question, Chief. What's changed that makes it so critical to get off the plan of doing one fireman for the next 3 years?
Well, I guess, to be honest with you, I think what changed has been building for a long time. And if your question is more of what changed between a year ago and now, calls are up, yes.
What
But
calls?
I think, I think that's the gist of it, but having said that, it seems that and this is my perception, somebody could tell me I'm wrong, there seemed to be kind of a consensus around the budget committee, the board of selectmen, us, the town manager, that the 1 a year would get us there. In my mind, the only thing that's changed is we're one step closer, which made it worth looking at what's the marginal cost of doing it sooner rather than later. If the policy boards feel that that's appropriate, we're thrilled. If we want to stick with the 1 a year, I mean, we're not going to say no to that. It's just, I think that, again, my perception is the consensus seems to be there's an understanding we need to get there. It's just how we do it. That said, and it's kind of hard to quantify, at least on the fly. Our staff, and when I say this, I'm looking at the whole department, both the call members and the career members. We tend to, if you looked at a chart, I think it looked like a donut. We have a number of people who have 20, 25, 30 years of service, and a number of people who have 5, 6, 8 years or less of service, and not a lot in between. One advantage of moving forward perhaps a little more quickly, and again, tough to quantify, but when the senior staff is at the point of looking at retiring, we need experienced people to be able to step into those roles. Bringing on the two, quote, additional career members might, give them time in the seat, if you will, to, learn how our department works, how the town works, and get somewhat comfortable and start gearing, their careers for stepping into leadership roles as time goes by. Can I quantify that? I don't know that I can.
Okay, here's a really simple question. Is this a critical need at this time, to have 2 people put on this year? Just a very yes or no question, that's all it is. That the taxpayer should have to come up with another $100,000 at this time in order to meet a critical part of your department, the department needs.
John, I have.
Let me answer the question first, John,
No.
okay?
I'm curious, here, you told me
John,
about.
just wait just a second, let me
Oh,
answer
yeah.
that question, please.
I would say yes. Say yes. If for no other reason.
I will answer your question. I would like the opportunity to speak to it rather than one word, but if
It's nice about thinking about the future 20 years from now, when guys
Yeah.
retire and they can learn how to drive,
Right.
do those things, but right now, we have people struggling to pay their bills.
Understood.
And I want a clear answer that, yes, this is a critical need for your department at this time, that we change from going, in the understanding where we go 1 person for 3 years, immediately now, we've got to do 2 this year. So when I can justify the taxpayers, and they go, well, we watched the tape last year, went to the meeting, the agreement was 1 person each year for the next 3 years. Now it's changed, and I want you to say, this is why it's changed, this is critical, they've got to have this other guy.
the short answer, yeah, I guess, yes, it's critical.
Okay.
And having said that, I want to be clear that we will be happy to provide whatever backup material you feel you need. and that we can provide to support that. Again, I do want to make it clear that, again, obviously we haven't discussed this with my boss, and, you know, we'll say the same thing to him, but at the same time, you know, we're not the only people who have a say in this. We understand that.
No, you're the department head, you're the chief, you're running the department. If this is a critical need, that we raise people's taxes, when people have to spend $5 a gallon for oil and everything else that goes along with the things we're going through, you've got to have this. You have to have this. Nothing else will work. We can't wait another year to do this.
No, again, yeah,
Because you're asking us now not to go along with what the Board of Selectmen said and the town manager. They said you don't need this at this time.
John,
Let me finish, please. Okay, thank you. They made their decision, now we're gonna make our decision. You've gotta tell us. If the town manager says, I'm definitely against it, that's fine, but you're the chief and you're running the department.
no, and again, I will say, yes, we feel it's critical.
Okay, thank you.
Safety reasons and some of the other reasons we discussed, and it also presents us more options, hopefully, to reduce some line items going forward as we integrate that level of staffing.
Thanks, chief. Okay, any other
Well,
questions?
I
Go
still
ahead,
have
John.
questions. Am I hearing something wrong? You're talking about going from a 48-hour work week down to a 42-hour work week with the 3 additional people?
We're discussing that, yes. Again, there are more players involved in that than just us sitting here today, because again, the work schedule currently is in the union contract, and obviously to change that is not something we can do unilaterally, but our intent, I think, moving forward, is to eliminate the Kelly schedule, to eliminate that problem that has been an issue with scheduling for a long time, and be able to maintain that level of 3 career members 24/7.
I feel very uncomfortable with this. As John pointed out here, people are hurting, and so we want to throw in 2 additional people, it sounds like to me, instead of 1 for the next 2 or 3 years. It's a lack of appreciation of what the people are going through in this situation right now with the increasing of prices and all that.
John,
Yes, sir.
if you're gonna take John's motion, I'll second it.
Well, let's first do a motion to see if you want the chief to go and proceed with that information.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second, well, you got it.
Okay, what's the
Big part.
motion? Let me understand the motion. The motion is that the chief is to go back, pull out all these different figures, how it would affect each different line, in order to consider have another position, add another position, 2 positions, right? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Is that the way everyone understands it?
Yeah, I would just ask that it be added that they include, their justification of something tangible that we can answer to the voters with, that this is why this needs to be added now as opposed to, waiting for another year. I mean, if that's the case, let's come up with data to support it,
He doesn't have to.
or possible.
Just once again, this was the night we were supposed to deal with all these issues, and then we should be provided with this information prior to tonight, so we don't have to go back and backtrack and go all through this again. Okay, everyone understand the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion passes.
All right, so now you want John's motion to revisit this issue?
Yeah,
I'll second it.
okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, to revisit line 100. Well, it's gonna change everything, right, Casey?
Yeah, it's even gonna health insurance department and So we will give you a financial snapshot of additional person and the tangible reasons as requested, right?
Okay, does that work for everyone?
Towards the end of this process, is that when you do the revisits?
I was gonna bring up, if we approve this, I was gonna bring up,
Sorry.
whether we do it on our revisit date or one of our open dates. It looks like this might be a long discussion, so I wanted to hold off on setting the date until we figure out if this motion passes. Is that all right, John?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to revisit a snapshot of 100 series, 200 series, that should be about it, right, Casey? You have 300 series,
Yeah, no, I think 600 also is safety
600
equipment.
series.
And personnel for the health insurance benefits. So it's to revisit a new hire position and all the costs
Very
associated
related
with it.
expenses. Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
John, how do we wanna do this? We have a revisit date of December 20th, but we have other items we have to look at that night, one of them being warrant articles.
We're gonna reschedule them for November 30th.
What, the revisit or
Yeah,
the,
revisit on the fire department.
is that a little too soon? This is
Shouldn't be.
November 30th, it's 2 weeks.
Okay,
Can
Is
you
that a
do
little
it?
too soon to
The
put
chief
this?
can get this information in, I mean, not the chief, the town manager,
It's fine.
for the first, next,
Next meeting.
Yeah, no,
but that's only 3 days.
that works.
Because we do have a couple open
What day
days
of the week
too,
is 30th?
so.
yeah, November
Wednesday.
30th,
Next week's only 3 days.
6 PM.
It is really quick, because he's got negotiations Monday and Tuesday. When he gets back.
Oh, we can either time 5 and 8.
I think we can put it together and put it in front of them and go from there.
But you gotta get it to them before the
Right,
meeting too,
right.
you know what I mean? You can't give it to them on
No,
the 30th.
understood.
Because that burns them too. John, that might be a little quick for them to
Well,
meet with.
it's,
What-
I
can
don't
can finish?
understand how this can be so, that it's a problem, because he's already asking for another man. He should have all that information to back everything up. I'm sorry, I'm just very emotional about this. I'm really concerned about the taxpayers.
I think he has the information, but for him to meet with the town manager and get you this information days before the 30th meeting, that's the timeline I'm worried about. I'm
Okay,
not saying-
what would work?
Bob was saying some of your open dates.
I'm not gonna go into the way back in December. The 5th,
Sure. Here's your another week. Is that okay?
Yep.
Let's say December 5th? John?
yep.
Okay. No, it's another week.
It's kind of a mute issue to even bother doing the rest of the budget then, if all these lines are gonna change.
Well, we would just be adjusting, health insurance line is a separate line anyway. We would just be adjusting, 4 or 5 lines, I guess, right?
Well, safety equipment, that's gonna go up. I'm sure training will go up, hopefully overtime will go down. All the 200 series will change. Some of the medical services, that'll probably change.
I would suggest we finish the FD budget tonight, and then they have the public safety building, a couple others too. So my suggestion is we finish this up tonight, and then if we decide to do this adjustment, then we can, all we need to do is adjust the lines that would be affected by this change. I think that's the best way to go with this.
Okay,
You know,
200 series.
John, we have to remember that one of our guys brought this up. Bob Mulholland brought this up.
I understand that.
So, I mean, you know, these guys didn't come to us.
Oh.
One of our guys brought this up.
I know, they had no idea this was gonna happen, I'm sure. They must have had some idea, because they brought it before the Board of Selectmen and the town manager, so someone knew about something. There should have been something to support if they brought something before the town manager and the selectmen. That's just, this is just very frustrating. What's that?
This didn't come up in front of the Board of Selectmen.
This issue at all didn't come up before?
No.
Nothing at all?
No, no, not at all. It come up in front of us.
Not the
can't-
overtime line?
We heard nothing about adding more than one employee part.
But the
Starting-
overtime line came before you because it's here in front of us.
Right, but
Thank you. So you did know that
No,
part?
No, you're asking for 2 people in 1 year.
Correct.
That was never discussed with the Board of Selectmen. Overtime, we looked at, but we didn't say, oh, we can cut that and then we can add 2. That discussion never took place with the Board of Selectmen.
So this is the first time you're
What-
hearing about this?
No, that's not
Correct.
true.
It's the first time, you can't tell me
No.
what I'm hearing about it. That's the first time I've heard.
Are you aware that the town manager cut that line by 22,000?
No,
Correct.
that's not what I'm asking, and I'm telling you
You-
that I was not told that we were gonna talk about adding 2 employees in 1 year. It never came up. Did I read that he cut the overtime? Yes.
And you know why he cut it?
No. No, he cut it, he was bringing the
Do you-
budget in a certain number, and that was where he thought he can do it. I mean, there's big asks, and as he goes through here, he had a certain percentage, and he tried to bring his budget down too. And in different places, he made cuts. Some places we added a little bit back, but a lot of time, I mean, you're gonna be going for a public safety building, you got a bad economy, you know, and we worked hard to get, and the town manager particularly was to bring it in within a reasonable balance. And so when he cut the overtime,
So the chief appeared before you guys, though,
yeah,
the fire chief. He never mentioned this, third person, adding 2
Do
people.
you remember specifically mentioning it at the meeting?
No, we didn't.
Third
No,
person was
they-
always gonna be
We,
in the
we
following
discussed
year.
it at the first review with the town manager. It didn't survive that.
That's correct.
The selectmen, I mean, I assume they see everything at some point, but it never came up to them because we were advised that felt more comfortable moving forward with the one a year. And that's where that line was removed, and I think that's what they saw, and no, it never did come up beyond that, because we were advised by, frankly, my supervisor that he felt comfortable moving forward with what he put for the selectmen, and that's where we are. And again, I'm not casting aspersions, not putting anybody on the spot. We did not, I get a call from Bob yesterday that he wanted to frankly say, we're not going to, I don't want to blindside you. So we didn't really have a lot of time to come in with arm loaded for bear, so to speak. Again, is it a good idea? Yes, we believe it's important, but we also understand that there are big asks, to use Mrs. Murray's term. As important as we feel this is, we also understand that we have a town to run, and we're not the only department in the town. Do we feel this is important to our safety and how we operate? Absolutely it is. Which is why, I'm trying not to speak in absolutes to Chairman McDonald, because, if your decision is to just continue to move forward with the second person in July, we're grateful for that. It's just another step that gets us to where we need to be. We believe we can justify the second person faster, but, I'm trying to be understanding in that we're not the only players in this game. We understand that.
Thank you, Chief. Go ahead, Tom.
In terms of protocol, we take our cue as the budget committee from the supervisors and then opine on that. If the supervisors haven't seen this, it's premature for us to be.
This has happened before. We've done stuff that after it was done by the select board.
But it's usually been brought to it's something,
Right.
the decision that the select board has had the opportunity to say hey or nay or whatever, yes or no.
Right.
That's my point.
And
The
this
only-
hasn't been done at this time.
John, the one other thing I can say about tonight is they have, I think, 3 capital outlay items, and, you know, one of them could possibly be pushed out, so, you know, maybe we can, if we do this, there's 2 men this year, or 2 firefighters this year, perhaps we can push out one of the other things to defray the cost of it. So, but, well.
Well, this will give the chief the opportunity to talk to the town manager and probably consult with the board of selectmen to get some input from them to see what they think. Okay, very good, thank you, everyone. Let's move on from, let's do 200. John?
Thank you.
Oh, you okay?
Yep.
All right,
Thank you.
yeah. 300? 400? 500? 600?
Well, and
Yes, sir.
what are we using as projections for gasoline and diesel per gallon?
I'm going to about to answer your question, sir. So up in the summaries, which one were you asking about?
Gasoline and diesel.
Gasoline. So gasoline, the town does not have a contract on. We put in all departments at $3.28, which was the rate on 11/1. At the end of this budget process, if there's a big fluctuation, I'll make a recommendation to change it. Diesel, we are in contract till June, and that is at 4.98. And there's good documents up on page 16 and 17 in your summaries if you'd like to look at them at a later date.
June 23, yeah, okay. For the diesel.
Yes, that's correct, June of 20.
Where are those, well, gasoline is
Rack rate, I think is
interesting,
what they call
right,
it.
yeah.
Correct, it's 10% or something.
But nobody
Thank you.
would, nobody would bid on gasoline.
Okay, still on the 600, 700?
I have
Yes, John.
a comment in 600. Again, it seems to be antisocial. You only spent $4.77 on postage. This is obligation.
Email is cheap.
Good. But you still need the $100.
We need something there, to be honest with you. We don't spend a lot of money on postage.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, 800 series?
Yes,
Yes, John.
I see you doing a very fine job in education. Professional development. This is something people put in their budget, and many times it's just a placeholder for having money, but you're doing a good job expending that money.
That covers, you know, certification programs,
Oh, yeah.
our training contracts with the people who come in and put on training for us and that sort of thing.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, that's it on the fire department.
So we're going to emergency management on page 16.
Okay, 100 series.
What page is it?
16.
I think it's important to say that they have given a stipend to the deputy EM director, who is a civilian? Is that-
Yes.
Would that be the correct term? That was decided, and that's why that budget's up a lot, even though it's only $4,492 total.
Okay, so the fire chief isn't the emergency management person anymore?
No, it's included in my salary.
Okay,
Same with the deputy, he's also a deputy EMD, but in concert with the town manager and the board of selectmen, we proposed to add an additional deputy emergency management director, frankly, to allow us some flexibility for an incident, whether it be fire-related or something else, that we didn't want to take the senior staff of the fire department and put them in an office. We wanted to have somebody else who could run the emergency operations center should we have a significant incident.
Okay.
Because frankly, we're going to be out in the field, and we still needed somebody who could fill that role.
Okay, thanks, Chief.
Question, John, is
Yes,
this an
sir.
additional person?
Yes,
So you have an additional person for this position?
correct.
It's a stipend.
It's a
Stipend.
stipend, it's not real.
It's a
Beg your
stipend.
pardon?
It's a stipend, not an employee, so to speak, it's just a stipend.
Thank you.
Okay, so 100, 200, 600? 700? 800? That's it on emergency management?
Page 19, public safety building.
Okay,
No, we go back to 16.
sure.
Professional development, 820.
Okay,
You spent $83.50 this year. Why only that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, no, what is it? Yeah. Primarily, it's because, to be honest, the training opportunities typically, in a lot of cases, coincide with what's appropriate in terms of fire. So the two of us have done a couple of programs that frankly have come out of the fire budget. This is designed more, I think, to cover any costs going forward with the other deputy who's not a firefighter, quote unquote.
Did you say a possibility of something coming up there?
Yeah, we've been, he's only been on board for a couple of months. We've been working with him to come up with what we expect he's gonna be responsible for. We've, in past years, well, I'll say on paper, we've created a citizen emergency response team, a CERT team. We've registered it
13
with.
people?
I'm sorry?
Of 13 people?
No. There's nobody at the moment. It exists on paper, we've registered with the state, and our intent in the long run is to look for volunteers who we can provide some training to do things like operate a shelter, if we had to run a shelter for a period of time in town, so as not to tie up our police and firefighters with something like running a shelter. Our goal, working with Paul, is to put him in charge of that recruitment and be the first point of contact for that sort of thing. This started under the previous chief. Obviously, during COVID, everything kind of sat on the table and didn't move very far. And now we're hoping to move forward with that. These would be volunteers that frankly are covered under state law and so forth, and it would not essentially be any expense to the town.
Do you have figures on this for prior years, 2020, 2021?
For what?
What?
For what, I'm sorry?
Professional development in this line.
We could certainly look back at it.
It's in the back.
I got them
Yeah,
right
it's
here.
in the back.
So you haven't really spent much.
No.
In 2017, there was nothing expended. In 2018, it was $200. 2019 was $0. 2020 was $0, and 2021 was $89 for a 5-year average of $58.
I make a motion, we change this line to $100.
Your second?
Okay.
Seeing no second, the motion fails. Okay, anything else on the public safety building? We move to public safety building. 400 series. 600 series.
You're gonna read more.
700 series. That's it on the public safety building.
That's correct. The chief has 3 capital outlays. If you'll jump to the capital outlay package in the back.
Capital outlay.
Starting on page 2, replace technical rescue gear for $16,414.
What can you tell us about that, chief?
Yeah, we originally had this money in the safety equipment, but we broke it out because we just wanted to highlight the need for it. It is replacing a lot of dated gear. We've got a lot of ropes, rescue equipment to include Stokes baskets, PFDs, things like that that are out of date, and we need to be replacing them. We were lucky enough to partner up with the Wolfeboro Singing Track Alliance. They donated a $5,000 piece of equipment to us. It's a lightweight Stokes that operates on a fat tire bike, I guess is the best way to explain it, to allow us to effect a lot of rescues more efficiently with our manpower that we have available. So we didn't have to buy that, which is nice, and a good public-private partnership there. But most of this line is to replace worn and update some of our technical rescue gear with newer, more efficient descenders, ascenders, brakes, ropes. It also includes some water rescue items, wetsuits, fins, snorkels, rescue swimmer PFDs.
It also includes, if you may be familiar, we have the small inflatable, what's called an RDC. It's a small, looks like an inflatable canoe, which we use routinely in both summer and winter, and when there's open water. That allows us to actually manually paddle up to a victim in the water and pull them aboard and take them. It's literally inflatable. It's inflated with a breathing apparatus bottle that we carry. The one we have is, I believe it's 12 years old, and we're patching patches at this point. So we are asking to literally just replace it in kind.
It's a pretty vital piece of equipment. It's really our only access during the shoulder seasons when the ice is bad to any incidences that might occur out on the ice.
So that covers the 16,414?
Yes, sir.
Is there an inventory list? Is there a list of equipment generated?
I
It's
don't,
in the backup, it should be.
I don't see it here.
Not that we gave them, it's not
We submitted a backup, apparently it hasn't made it to you.
Look for it.
Really?
Do we have access to a copy?
It looks like Chief has got the stuff to work on the boat by Melvin Village Marina.
I'm sorry, you do have that?
We have the Melvin Village
Okay.
Marina stuff.
All right, so they got the second part.
We just don't have the technical rescue gear stuff list.
If you give me a minute, I might be able to find it on,
I have it in, but I only have the one copy that I kept.
We have that and also the 12 horsepower motor.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the first one wasn't included in there.
It wasn't part of your PDF that you gave me.
Want to revisit this one, John, so that we can time to get us this thing?
This is the one that took,
Yeah, yeah. The paperwork, the documentation didn't make it to the book.
Yeah. 16,414.
I mean, I think we hit the highlights. I'm not sure there was anything else on there that we're looking to purchase.
Worn and dated equipment allow us to grow and to meet current rescue needs. Use of four-season trails, running, hiking, cross-country skiing, snowmobiling, and mountain biking. Just doesn't say what the stuff you wanna buy is, we don't have that list.
Yeah, I would think with that odd number, request, that there must be a list somewhere.
There
We
is.
do, that may be on me if it wasn't uploaded to the, shared
That's
drive.
all I'd be looking for.
Yeah, maybe you can bring it
but
on
we do
the
have it.
5th.
We'll place it on the revisit list to get you that back up.
Okay.
You said the same date, is that?
Yeah.
So on the for that same date?
Yeah, no,
December
that's
5th?
fine.
The, repairs to boat 1.
Yeah, this has been the ongoing boat refurb, kind of its half-life. So this will be the last part of that refurb for boat 1, to hopefully get us another solid 15 years out of it, which was the plan when it was purchased. This is gonna install a bank charger for some batteries, some bow rail work and some gel, updated electronics, to include a new GPS, thermal imaging camera, and all the associated equipment that goes along with that. Trim tabs that we put off when we bought the new motors last year, those need to be installed. Some lighting, replace damaged reflective graphics, and then some cosmetic work, and some, fabricate some scuba tank mounts.
I thought you guys had a bid from, Eastman to do all this work.
We did, John and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong here, but they, short answer is they essentially said they're not gonna be able to complete it in a reasonable manner that would even make sense for us to put it down there.
Okay.
They're looking a year out right now at any type of major refurb work like that.
What was the difference in the price, do you remember?
I don't off the top of my head, no.
Did we even end up
I'm not
getting
sure
one
that
from
we
them?
ended up getting an entire quote from them because they kinda told us right up front that they wouldn't be able to complete it.
this is $40,000, John.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could push this one out, you know, and talk, your justification says our vendor is very reluctant to quote firm prices for the work. But then after that, Tom, you had, sent a memo to, Jim Pino that, please find the final estimate to work on both one. So it sounds to me like you might have gotten the final estimate after you wrote up the, capital projects request? Is that the way that went?
Initially, when we submitted it, we did it as quote-unquote a placeholder, because we were expecting the vendor to come through with an estimate in a matter of days, and in the interest of getting it in at the deadline, we did that. We did receive that estimate, which I think is the one you see in front of you,
Yeah.
shortly thereafter, and hence the memo saying, here it is.
Well, you know, I just, if they can't get to it that soon, I'm wondering if maybe we can just scratch this one from this year's budget.
We've got a commitment from
We've got a
Melvin on the time frame. It was
Oh, okay.
Eastern Boats who couldn't give us a reasonable time frame to actually complete it.
Okay.
A question here, didn't we spend some money on it this year?
We did.
How much?
What was the total last year?
It was a pretty good amount.
That was for, to repower it, so we put new motors on it.
This was originally all one proposal, and in the course of the process, last year, we split it in two, and what you're looking at is the second part.
Boy, this is becoming a very, very expensive boat.
Well, I like to,
$80,000 in 2 years?
Approximately.
Oh, Lord.
so the town, let's not forget, you know, 18 years ago now, got the boat at a very reasonable price. The motors that we got with that boat originally was like a 2-for-1 deal. We bought one and they gave us the other one. A new replacement on a similar boat is upwards of $450,000. Yeah, Guilford spent about $475 on their boat 3 years ago. Alton's close to $400,000 on their new boat. So at the end of the day, it is a lot of money, I agree with you, but it's short money, big picture, to keep this on the water and functional for the town for the next 15 years.
And some of it, if you go through the estimate, is gel coat work and fiberglass work and stuff. There are some cracks that if we catch them now, they're fairly minimal, but we want to get ahead of it before it gets worse and would be a more significant outlay to repair it.
Is Melbourne Village always your go-to marina for?
They have been very responsive to our needs. They are very easy to work with. They are very understanding of the fact that it's an emergency vehicle, and we've been able to coordinate work and deliveries and so forth to minimize downtime during the season and that sort of thing. We generally, over the years, have tried to get quotes and estimates from a number of sources. Some are somewhat reluctant, some, like we talked about Eastern, it's been an issue getting a commitment on time frame. They've been the most cost-effective that we've seen, and again, they've been very good to work with, from the understanding of we're talking about an emergency vehicle and we're trying to minimize time out of the water.
Okay, let's move on to, what's the last one, the 12 horsepower motor?
Replace boat 2 motor, page 8, $12,000. So is that one on a revisit list too?
Yeah, the boat, yeah.
Whoa, John,
Yeah,
I'm a little confused on that. What's on the revisit list?
the $40,000 on the
$40,000.
boat.
I didn't ask for a revisit list. I asked if we could push it out, and these guys talked me out of it, so,
They talked you out of it?
yeah.
Okay.
I didn't ask to revisit.
Okay.
So can I just ask a process question? Do you vote to move it forward then, or?
Well, it's, can stay in there for now.
Okay.
We may take it out
Sorry,
later.
Then,
Yeah.
I didn't hear a vote, that's why I thought you needed to
No, we
revisit.
don't usually vote. We
Sorry.
usually vote to take it out.
Got it. Thank you, my mistake.
With anything of this size, 40 grand, shouldn't we get 2 or 3 quotes from, we talked about Eastern, I dealt with Eastern when I was running marine operations at the Corinthian. They're good, but they're not the only alternative to Melbourne.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the bid process is that the supervisors require.
We usually put 3, we ask for 3 bids.
But that's when we go out to bid. We
Yeah.
usually don't
Yeah.
get 3 estimates,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Well, in practice, we in 99% of cases I can think of, we actually do get at least 3, whether they're written or verbal quotes, or we're told, we don't have time for you, don't, that's the answer.
when you're purchasing it though, right?
Well, when we prepare this material, we talked to Eastern, we talked to, the lieutenant who did this isn't here tonight, but I know we've, in the past, reached out to Goodhue and others to try to make sure the pencils are sharp, if you will, and this is kind of where we've ended up.
I guess we don't see those other
He's saying,
proposals.
did you
Yeah.
submit it with the proposal?
No.
We didn't give him 3 quotes to look at.
Okay, let's go into our replace boat 2 motor.
Yeah, this boat 2 motor's been on the, our boat 2, which is a 15.5-foot aluminum tri-hull since 2004. It's a 40 horsepower Mercury outboard. So it's kind of reached the end of its useful life, and we're looking to replace it. Boat 2 is used, it's kept at the station. It's used on all the other bodies of water essentially, and as a backup boat for Lake Winnipesaukee if we need it.
Okay, any questions about,
Yeah, I have one.
Yes, sir.
Does the old motor go up for sale then?
It's part of a trade-in, it's in the backup
Oh,
material.
I got you, okay, thanks.
Chief, how many other boats on the lake, fire boats, have the thermal cameras?
Just Guilford's, John.
Just Guilford?
Right now, that's true. I'm not sure what Alton's bringing out for their equipment. Their boat is still in production. I know they're having some problems with that. I don't know if they're getting the FLIR on that or not.
Have you guys seen how a thermal camera works on the water?
Have we?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
When they're bringing it up from Flare?
So we had a rep come up, you might remember, this is a while ago now, 5 or 6 years ago maybe, when we first started talking about the refurb. And at the time, the price was very high. I want to say upwards of 30,000, maybe a little less for install. So the prices have dropped dramatically. We also, if it calls for it, we'll bring our handheld FLIRs out there that we carry on the fire apparatus, the fire operations. Those are pretty small screen, and kind of limited use on a big area like that. They're meant for small rooms to be able to see bodies, essentially. But it does work well in the water, it does pick up heat signatures, and it does what it's supposed to do. This obviously has a much wider range of view, and we can cover a lot more area. It's essentially a search and rescue tool.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, Casey, do you have anything else?
Not for the fire to this evening.
Okay. Chief, you got any questions of us before you take off?
Don't believe so, no. We will gather
any
the
questions?
information you talked about. and get it to you.
Okay, next thing is consideration of minutes. Got the August 24th. Have any changes or anything like that to them?
No?
Okay, can I get a motion to accept the minutes as written?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the August 24th, 2022 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next meeting was October 25th. Need any changes for those minutes?
None here.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve them as written?
So moved.
And a second? Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of October 25th, 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next one is the minutes of November 9th, 2022. Any changes or omissions you want to add?
None here.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve them as written?
So move.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of November 9th, 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the last minutes are November 10th, 2022. Any changes to those minutes?
No?
Yes, I have one little correction. I asked Leanne to change the last sentence, and I think spell check wrote evaluation instead of valuation.
Okay, where are we?
Oops.
I got it. Right here.
Thank you for making those changes.
Assessed.
Just evaluation
Assessed. Oh, wait a minute.
on the new one.
It says assessed at 32 million. I don't see
You don't see-
evaluation.
Well, you edited.
Yeah, but-
thought that
Yeah, but I
was-
don't see evaluation.
Does it say net assessed valuation?
No, stated, under other business, the left
Yep.
end. Kathy Goppinger stated the town was assessed at 32 million
Yeah, and then it should be,
and noted she would be reviewing the rate. Oh, I didn't print, I'm sorry.
right, what you changed.
This is the old one, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I know where the correction is.
Yes. It's just,
I forgot to reprint,
Yes.
and I was looking at the old one, I apologize.
So does everyone have the new ones?
yes,
I
I did send them
emailed
out.
them, but I forgot to physically print
Yeah,
it.
2 dates, you selected two sets, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Everyone
Yeah.
understand, everyone okay with that?
Sorry.
Okay, did we get a motion to approve and then print?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of November 10th, 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Casey, what else do you have for this evening?
2 follow-up items, and I'll try to be real quick. Mr. Tupper asked about the tax rate and the insurance rate. So, last week I met quickly with the Board of Selectmen, to get authorization to, finalize the preliminary tax rate. The Department of Revenue approved it last night. I plan on, publicly going in front of the board tomorrow to review the numbers, but since you asked and the DRA approved and the board already knew, I'm happy to report that the tax rate has decreased 45 cents or 3.3% decrease. I've broken it down by municipal is up 12 cents, local ed is down 6 cents, state ed is down 47 cents, and the county is down 4 cents. So this is $13.22 per assessed value on $1,000 of assessed value.
Very good. Thank you for doing this, Kathy.
You are welcome. A couple pages down, I think John's always interested here, on the Form MS 434R, which is revenues. We got a little over 100,000 more in meals and room tax, 3,000 in highway block grant, and a little less in water pollution grant. And the 44,328 in other is from the New Hampshire retirement system. A total of 144,281 extra revenue dollars from state sources. I know this is a lot of information all at once, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them now or at a later date.
Catherine, our audit that was done, I guess, in August, I believe, has our unexpended fund balance in the vicinity of 4.2 mil, something along those lines.
Yep.
You don't have to go crazy with that.
Nope.
I think I'm in the ballpark.
You are in the ballpark, for sure, but I have it right here in front of me, so I can. I thought it was attached to what I gave you, but, we had budgeted a 5.63% municipal tax rate, and, we did better than that. And then the Department of Revenue, the unassigned fund balance is 4.2, which was 9.6% of the gross appropriations. The board had already approved in 21 to take $1 million out for the town road upgrades, so that currently puts us at 7.35%. The policy says minimum balance should be about 5%, and we try to target a balance of about 8% is the fund balance policy that the board has approved.
Good. Very good. Thank you for this. That's wonderful. I didn't think we would do that good, but
Yeah,
our assessed value went up, and that pulled it down a little bit. And I think the schools did a little better than the Wolfeboro than they thought they would. I don't think we're gonna be as lucky next year with the schools.
right, it seemed like the, big piece of that was the, state education, so.
Yeah.
state education went from 4.2 million down to 3.2 million, so.
Yeah, that's terrific.
And one other thing I can't quantify at this point, but I am able to tell you that, the insurance rates did come in and, it went up, our insurance rates went up 6% and our dental went up 1.6%. We had budgeted 10% for health and 0% for dental because our dental has been flat for a while. So I hope to quantify that for you, but it should probably be in the like $20,000-$30,000 decrease to the budget.
So, we're gonna fix that when, general government comes in, when we do general government, is that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's under general government?
Yes.
Okay, so we, all right, good, okay.
And that is it. I believe those are the two follow-ups that you asked
Yes,
about last
yes,
week.
thank
And we're able to quantify that for you now.
Thank you, Casey.
You are welcome.
How about the Board of Selectmen? You have anything to say? Guys are good? Okay.
Can I just say, I did print this because I think you all got it very small if you want.
Yes, I would like a copy of that, if you if that's an
Yeah,
extra, I would.
I made
yeah,
extra copies because I think you all
I
got
have
little.
to, use my periscope
Yeah,
to read this, thank you so much.
this is the CIP
Yeah.
document. You want it?
John, I wanted to talk about this quick.
Go ahead.
I've got enough for everyone.
Just in case.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, so, well, when Casey's done.
I'm done talking, so.
Yeah, so I took a quick look at the CIP report on the recommended warrant articles for this coming March. And I would just like to note that our general fund, we're up about 1.1 plus million, right, 1,000,000 general fund, we're up about, so for every $100,000 we go up, it's approximately, at our evaluation, it's approximately 4 cents per, it's a little over 4 cents per thousand. So 1.1 plus $1 million, we're looking at about a hike in 45 cents per thousand, without even talking about the school district or anything like that. So now what I think has to be done is, I think due caution should be done on the warrant articles. I would like to, I know you got a lot there, but I know, I would like to see our spending, our cash warrant articles not be more than last year. I think we should try and come in a little under that, to maybe cut into that 45 cents per thousand. There's a couple of warrant articles I'm looking at, I don't like, I'm not too crazy about, but I just think, I think the budget was done very well. There were increases, mandatory and discretionary spending that really had to go up because prices went up, prices on fuel went up, prices on supplies went up. So I think the budget was mostly necessary, but I think we have to be careful with the warrant articles. That's it, that's all.
The Board of Selectmen has just got the first rough draft. We haven't
Yeah.
done any work on them yet, so
It's
I'm
just-
sure some things will change.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. That's it, John, thanks.
But you'd like to see them the same cash value as last year, was
Well,
that in summer?
yeah, if not a little low, but this is one year I don't think we wanna go higher in cash
Okay.
value spending, because of John's concerns, and because our general, and because, we gotta keep our eye on the target here. We're trying to get a public safety building warrant article passed, and that's probably gonna be a big number. Jim said, we had a meeting with staff, and he told me briefly about it, but the committee has not met in a while, but, it is a difficult year. The number's gonna be good size on the public safety building warrant article. We're gonna try, and hopefully the number will be reasonable for most of us to agree with. And I just don't, you throwing all this extra stuff in there, I think you're taking your eye off the prize. These guys have been waiting a long time for this, so. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, our next meeting is going to be on Wednesday, November 30th, at 6 PM here at the library. Hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving, safe
You
Thanksgiving.
too, John, thanks.
And I guess I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I guess we should break this down.
A second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you.